This video is going to be on the Pico Scope, so I'm just going to show you again just a brief overview of how to operate the Pico Scope. This is what it looks like, and this is a 4-channel oscilloscope, which means you can look at 4 things at the same time, and these are color coded, A, B, C, and D, and so depending on how many sensors or items you want to look at, that's how many you can look at up to 4. In the cart we have, in this big drawer here, we've got all the leads. So we've got the blue lead, the green lead, the red lead, and the orange or the yellow lead. These are color coordinated, not necessarily because you have to use yellow on yellow or green on green. It's just so you can keep track. So if you're looking at 4 different sensors, you can look at the color and know which channel you're looking at on there. So that's all it is. A couple other attachments we have for the Pico. We have an amp clamp right here. Now with these amp clamps, you want to make sure that you turn them on and off. If you notice that this one here, when I turn it on, there's no power, which means that somebody has left it on and the battery's dead. On most of these, I've printed please turn off sign here. This one here, the power is good, so if you turn it on, you got power there. So with an amp clamp, you can just clamp this around the wire and you can read amperage, which is a little bit easier. You don't have to worry about blowing fuses in your meter or anything like that. And this is a micro amp clamp, which means that it's got a small hole here. You can measure really small amounts of current with this. So this is kind of a good tool to use. We also have a large amp clamp like this one here. This one will go up to 600 amps. And there again, somebody left it on, so the battery's dead. So one downside about these is they don't have an auto turn off on these. So you have to remember to turn these off, otherwise next time somebody goes to use it, the battery's dead on it. So those are the attachments. In this little drawer here, we have a bunch of other attachments that go on the end. So we've got little big clips, we got little clips, we got back probing tools, so you can back probe something that you need. And then we have attenuators, and these are little filters basically that keep the too much amperage from going into the Pico and destroying it. So the Pico usually tells you if you need to add an attenuator on there. So those are the attachments, that's the hardware. So let's take a look at how to hook it up. So if we take the Pico Scope, and we've got a USB cable that goes over here and plugs into the PC or into the laptop. And then over here we're going to use one channel for this demonstration. So I've got one channel plugged into A, and I happen to be using the same color as A. So if you look at the A terminal is blue, so I've got a blue scope wire going to it. And I've got the scope wire going down here, and I've actually got it back probed into the TPS sensor. Now this is a 3-wire sensor, and so you have to determine which wire it is going to be the signal wire on that, and I can probably show you that on a wiring diagram in a minute. So I've got it plugged into there, and then the other end of the wire is the black ground, and I've just got it hooked up to a ground. So we've got the scope hooked up. So now what we're going to do is we're going to turn it on the laptop, and in order to do that, we're going to come down here and we're going to use the Pico icon that does not say beta. Okay, so you don't want to use either one of those two. So this one here is the Pico Automotive Oscilloscope. So double click on that, it opens it up. And sometimes it takes a second. And once it opens up, you'll get this screen here, and then sometimes it pops up with a commercial for Pico, and it gives you a whole bunch of other information and stuff too. But this is basically showing you that you're dealing with a 4-channel oscilloscope. We're only going to use one of them. So the next thing we want to do is come up here to this soft key up here, which is automotive. We click on that, and we want to go to sensors because we're going to measure the TPS sensor. So basically what you have to do is you have to tell this what you want to measure. So we're going to go with sensors, and we're going to come down here to throttle position, and then it gives us the option, do we want to look at the potentiometer, do we want to look at the switch? So we're going to look at the potentiometer. So we click on that, and it loads it up, and what it'll do is it'll give us an example of what we should see. and here's where the service information comes in. So this will open up with a whole bunch of different service information. This has got some really excellent information in it. So if you're wondering how a system works or something like that, this is a good place to look. For this information here, if you scroll down, a lot of times you can find information here that's not in the service information, which is kind of cool. This shows you the scope pattern that you should see and the wave notes. So this gives you some information about the wave that you're looking at. And here's some technical information about the actual throttle position sensor. So, and this is true for anything that you're looking at. Really good information. So don't skip over it. You know, you read it and use it as you need to. But it's really good information that Pico provides for you. So anyway, once we've turned it on, we've got our example scope pattern. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here into the far left-hand bottom corner, and there's a red box and a green arrow. I'm going to click on the green arrow, and that starts the scope going. So there's my trace going across. So now, if I work the throttle, you'll see the throttle go up and down. So and you can stop it at any point in time too. So if you come over here and you just hit the green button again, it'll pause it. So if you're capturing a sine wave or something, and you want to look at it a little closer, you can stop it, and then you can actually save this file too. So if I catch the wave pattern, so let's see if I can catch one here real quick. Oh, hit it a few times, get a good signal going on here, and stop. Okay, so I paused it. So now I can you can actually go back and you can play this back too. But you come up here to File, and you can hit Save As, and you can save those wave patterns to a thumb drive, a SD card, or hard drive, whatever you want to do. And so that's a good way to build a file of wave patterns. So when you get out into the industry and you think, oh, what's an oxygen sensor supposed to look like? And if you test several oxygen sensors here, you can save your wave patterns, and you can say, well, here's some good oxygen sensors I tested at school, so you can compare them. And that's a good way to analyze your scope patterns. But anyway, that's using the Pico. You can adjust the settings here, so the milliseconds per division and your other setting here. So basically it's the height and the horizontal view and the vertical view of your scope that we talked about in the chapter. So you can adjust those right here. I would just suggest going with the basic default settings for automotive. That seems to work really well in most applications, but sometimes you may want to tweak them a little bit. So anyway, that's using the Pico Scope. Last item is make sure that you're kind to the next person who uses the Pico Scope, and coil up your leads and use the Velcro strip to keep them all contained, and take the little clips off from the end and put them back in the drawer so that the next person who uses the Pico Scope will have an easy time finding the accessories. Turn off the computer, wind up the cords, lay the Pico Scope down into the cart before you shut the lid, and put it all away. And that way, because you never know, you might be the next person to use it, and it's nice when everything's all put away and everything's right there so that when you go to use it, it's all ready to go.